it's just so special for such our club, mate, our club.
Lastly, after 57 years of pain, it's coming home.
Hey there, TJ here, and welcome to Yeahthedees, where I am going over our round 22 win against the Blues Saturday night, August 13th at the MCG. What a thrilling victory that was, with Kysaiah kicking a goal with like 11 seconds to go. We don't usually win the close ones, and we won a close one. Fuck yeah. Oh, it's so good. I'm sure a lot of you thought when Charlie Curnow put that goal through that put us 2 goals behind, with 3 minutes to go, you probably had your head in your hands like I did in the stands going, oh no, how have we let another one slip? But we didn't. Jake Melksham, one of the heroes of the day, along with Cozzy Pickett, Jake Lever and Jaden Hunt. So well done to the boys. We will go through that moment. I will actually go through the final 2 minutes with a video. I'm going to try something new I haven't done before, because there's a few things I would really love to point out in the last 2 minutes of play. So I'm going to go through my usual thing with the teams and things like that, and then I will get into my video analysis of the last 2 minutes. Plenty of AFL media have gone through the 2 minutes, and there is multiple things in there I have not seen Footy Classified, Footy Show, On the Couch, or 360 point out, so I will be pointing that out shortly. Let's get into the teams. All right, so the changes for the teams this week for us was absolutely nothing. We ran with James Harmes as the sub again, and the Blues were lucky enough to get Patrick Cripps to play off a technicality. So that sucked, and a lot of Dees fans let them know their thoughts on it, because I don't think the bloke should have got off. He, went in with the intent to make a physical impact and took the guy high and caused a concussion, and he misjudged the contest and should have been punished. It was very bizarre that he got off on a technicality with the way that the case went. So it was a legal technicality that he got off. Absolutely bizarre. If it was, like a Chandler or a Neil Bullen or something like that, they would have gotten weeks and it would have never even come up to be appealed at all. So it just is what it is. No change was a good choice for us. I felt like we played pretty well against Collingwood and just didn't get the win. Carlton threw a few things differently at us than they had in the previous couple of weeks. They've been pretty poor over maybe the previous 8 weeks or so, and mainly because Mark Pitternet was out, so they didn't really have a ruckman. So him coming back in straightened them up a lot and made them a lot more competitive in the middle and around the ground. They also threw Sam Doherty into the middle, which was a completely different look for them, and he's a very skilled and talented player and did very, very well. So that was the teams. Let's get stuck into the game. You could tell from the start of the game that the pressure was on from both sides. It was a very heavily contested game, with both teams only getting a goal on the board in the first and 5 goals being scored between the two teams in the second. I actually messaged my dad at halftime saying, you're not missing much, because he wasn't able to make it. And that was just because it was a very heavily contested game, and I felt like it was a bit stale and boring. But when I went back and watched the replay, it was actually pretty fun to watch on TV. It's not often that a football game is better on TV than it is live. Like, at least that's the way that I feel. I feel like the games are always better live, but this was really not the case. This was basically a TV game because of the level of pressure and contest, and it was beneficial to have a zoomed in look in what was happening around the contest. And you can really appreciate what Angus Brayshaw, Clayton Oliver, Christian Petrarca do in the middle, even Jack Viney as well, throughout those contests by watching it on TV. So if you've only just watched the game live, definitely jump on a replay and have a look. It's a bit more of an enjoyable game, and some people are even saying that this is one of the games of the year now. But it just opened up a bit more after halftime. I was very, very happy that Max got a goal, because his goal kicking last week was putrid. He really hasn't fixed the way that he approaches a goal, and if he was 5 meters to the left, he would have missed. So I hope that he gets that fixed up, his swaying of the ball and all that rubbish. It was a game of many lead changes. There was over 10 lead changes throughout this game. I think we got at absolute max up by about 14 points, and I think they were at about 11 at most. throughout the game, so it was very, very close all the way through. I felt like every time Carlton scored, and they only really had this one good run through the third quarter where they kicked a goal, we kicked one back, and then they kicked 3 in a row. That was their best run for the whole game, where they got 4 goals in about 5 minutes out of their 10 goals for the game. But outside of that, I felt like we defended the ground pretty well. I felt like we dried up a lot of their opportunities. They did miss a few opportunities as well, but so did we. So it was a game of poor kicking, mainly based off pressure, tackling inside 50. The inside 50 tackles was very high for both teams. We'll go through that a bit later. A lot of people are thinking that, you know, we probably should have done a lot better with Carlton not having Kennedy or Hewitt or Chera playing. And the thing is that when a team goes against a team that's obviously better like we are, they turn it into a bit of a scrap to try and pull the skill out of the game. And that's what I felt it was. Like, their high tackling game and high pressure game and their efforts on defense was what turned it into a contest game and a scrap. And, you know, we're always playing one less around the contest, so we're playing at a disadvantage just so we can have an advantage further back. And that's going to play out throughout the game. We are a much better post-contest team than we are in the contest, purely based off playing a number short, but we back ourselves in to win that more than we don't, and we do almost break even a person short most of the time. So it's been something that we've been doing for 2 years, and it's something that we definitely sacrifice to try and improve our games elsewhere. Bonus that Carlton had in that middle is that they had some very tall midfielders, with Cripps is 195 centimeters, Setterfield's about 191, 192, I think. And when they're a little bit taller and we're doing loopy handballs, they're going to intercept and get a finger to that and touch it and things like that. And what we would see is that we would get the first touch out of the contest, but then the loopy handball would get intercepted, get a touch on it, and then it would turn back into a contest again. And that was something that Carlton were doing to really even out this game. Shit kicking inside 50 is the reason why we have close games. And if we fixed up our kicking inside 50, then these games, they wouldn't be close at all. It's something that's been a problem for a while. And, you know, when we do execute good kicking, like we did against Brisbane earlier in the year, we blow teams away and they don't have a chance. And that's what happened with the Pies the week before. We left the door open. And even with Carlton in this game, we left the door open for them. Our forward entries, sometimes they were looking a bit short, other times they weren't. There's the obvious example in the last quarter when Jack Viney kicks it over Alex Neil-Bullen's head, where he could have just easily hit him on the chest and we would have scored then. I just love that every time that they really, really started to sort of get around or get away, we were able to respond fairly quickly, other than this 3 goals in a row through here. We were still able to get the last of the third and the first of the fourth. So that really helped. But yeah, massive panic when Curnow kicks that goal. After Ben Brown put us back within a kick. Ben Brown had a very interesting game. There was a lot of conjecture and a lot of chatting about him jumping up with one arm. And it looks like he's trying to actually tap it to one of our ground players. Like, he went up with one hand at least 6 times in contests. I don't think you do that unless you're being asked to. And it paid off in the very last play that Kysaiah kicked a goal, because he went up and tapped down again. He's the only player in a position that I'm really not sure about, because I'm not sure how he's being instructed. And when it's either him or Gawn or Jackson in that forward line is really our tall forwards. He's the only one that's meant to understand forward craft, and he's not playing like he understands forward craft, because he's meant to be a lead-up forward like your Tom Hawkins that lead towards the ball carrier so he can hit him on the chest. And we haven't seen that for a very long time. And we haven't seen that. What I was noticing against Carlton is that all the forwards go to the pockets and stay in the pockets and ask for the kicker to kick it to these pockets. Now, very safe option for if you don't take a mark, it can go out of bounds and we can lock it in and chew up the clock and chew up tackles and do all that sort of thing. But it doesn't really help the kicker if they do mark it, because then they just have a really, really difficult shot. Worked out in this case with Ben Brown in the pocket because he just went and snapped it, but, you know, he kicked it behind earlier from another difficult shot. Charlie Curnow kicks this goal. Well, he's kicked one goal for the game, so he could have done a lot better with his output. He's a great forward, Charlie Curnow. Just wasn't enough to get the job done. So let's watch these last 2 minutes, and I'm gonna point out a few things that I've noticed. Hopefully this looks alright. I haven't done something like this before, so we'll just see. We'll just see how it works. 2:17 on the clock here. So this kick here comes out to Max Gawn, who was left on his own because he allowed Ben Brown to take the ruck there. That was so we could have a spare man back. That worked fantastically. Good stuff. The kick comes in. Jake Melksham takes this ridiculous mark against 3 other players. At best, you can count it as a 4-on-2 between Langdon and Jake Melksham here. Now, here is something really, really important that I've heard nobody talk about. He pushes Jeremy McGovern in the chest. The umpire calls time off. So usually, you would take a mark and you would be walking back to your spot and the clock would be counting down here. But instead, the umpire has called time off. Now, if we go from when his whistle goes, whistle now, time off, up, whistle, time off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, called 50, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, kicks the goal, off he goes, time back on, only 2 seconds come off the clock instead of 14 seconds. There should have been 14 seconds taken off the clock here, but Mitch McGovern flops, the umpire calls time off for him to stand up, and we get an extra 14 seconds on the clock. The siren should have been going either just before or as Kysaiah Pickett was kicking it. That's how close it was. This small little flop from Mitch McGovern here has possibly cost his team. You can look at Adam Sard later on and his kick to a pack that got turned over because Owie didn't hit him on the chest. But they would have been on the wing with 15 seconds less on the clock. We've got a minute 56 here. It should be a minute 40. So after Jake Melksham had kicked that goal, everybody in my row was on their feet. We watched these last 2 minutes all standing up. It was nuts. Now, Viney should have hit Neil Bullen here. Absolutely should have hit him there. And it would have been game over at that point because we would have kicked a goal and gotten in front. Now, it would have been real tough with a minute and a half to go and the ball back in the middle. But there was a really, really good opportunity there that we didn't get. Now, I'm just going to fast forward a little bit through this. You know, ball comes out, marks. This is where they should have the ball. They get it up to Harry Mackay. He goes to Owies. They're all pointing for him to kick it down to Sard. And he kicks it to him. Now, Sard doesn't make a bad choice here. He kicks it down the line to a 3-on-1 against Max Gawn. Max gets held, should have gotten a free kick, but didn't. We play on. Jaden Hunt speeds up. He also kicks to a 3-on-1, and it hits this bloke in the head. And we've broken even on 2 3-on-1s, and Jake Melksham won a 4-on-2 mark before. Like, how ridiculous is that to have beaten, to break even in 2 3-on-1s where they don't even touch the ball, and Jake Melksham wins a 4-on-2 with a contested mark, which is just obscene. Now, this goes to a stoppage again, but we would have another 15 seconds taken off the clock here, remember. Slap comes up to here. Jake Melksham goes for a kick in. We have now found out that this is a set play that they practiced during the week. That's why they were loaded up through the middle. Jaden Hunt straight through. Kicks to the top of the goal square, which is not anywhere that we've kicked all game. We hardly ever kick towards the top of the goal square. We always kick to the pockets. This is a very different play. It's a set play that comes in. And Ben Brown, once again, in a 3-on-1, goes up with one arm and taps it down. Jake Melksham, hero of the day, gets the hand pass to Kysaiah Pickett. And then, boom, kicks the winner. And there's 15 seconds left on the clock. By the time it goes through, it's down to 11. There was definitely more than 11 seconds in that downtime after Mitch McGovern flopped. Mitch McGovern cost his team the game. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about that him flopping added time to the clock. Siren should have already gone by now. The game should have been over. I had a good laugh at this chick too, by the way. How funny was that, her yelling, "Get fucked." Up with one arm again. Jake Melksham with the assist. And Jake Melksham got the assist on the Ed Langdon goal earlier as well. So he's kicked 4 goals and personally assisted 2. Amazing game, great stuff there, and great stuff from Cozzy Pickett to kick the winner. It couldn't happen to a nicer bloke. So that's my analysis of the last 2 minutes. That's something that I found really, really interesting there, and it was just unreal, like that we were able to get it. Now I heard through I think it was Max Gawn, Jake Melksham, and Jake Lever all saying that was practice during the week. If you listen to Simon Goodwin's press conferences, he talks a lot about learnings in games, and this is a direct result of us seeing a learning happen right in front of us. The team knew that we couldn't get through Collingwood's defence when we needed to kick a goal the week before. So they practiced, what can we do differently in the last 2 minutes of a game where we need to score and get a goal? And they were able to execute this play that they learnt during the week, and it succeeded. Do you know how much that does for confidence? The amount of confidence this club would get from this win is massive. It's absolutely huge. So it's really positive that we found a way to win, even though it was a much more competitive game than I thought it would be. Carlton were absolutely playing for their lives. If they don't win against the Pies next week, they're not playing finals. Like, that's where they're at. They're in a situation that we were many years ago. This is very 2017 Melbourne for Carlton right now, and they were in a better position than us. So it's so positive that we found this way to win. It's so positive for us long term to try and become a consistent competitive football club. Like, that's really what we're trying to be. We're trying to be a high performance football club. And, making back-to-back finals is really good. Making back-to-back top 4 will be awesome as long as we get the win against Brisbane this week. So it's, after those last 2 minutes in that game, like, you can see the hunger that the boys have got. The Jake Melkshams and Jaden Hunt that both missed out, they were there to get the win, and they were hungry for it. Like, we might not have had the right to win that game in those last 2 minutes with the way that it went. Like, it felt like all the momentum had gone towards Carlton, but we did. We didn't give up, and we got it. And it's a good day to be a Demon. And I'm just so proud of the boys for digging in and getting that win, basically from the jaws of defeat. So because it was a heavier contested game, our disposal rates are both slightly lower than our averages. Kicks sort of around the same, but the handball game was down. We had 10 more inside 50s, but we did have a little bit more of the ball in our control, especially early in that first half. Disposal efficiency, 68%, not bad. It seemed like a pretty okay game. Efficiency inside 50, we can definitely fix this up. If we fix that up by 10%, it's not as close of a game where we win by another goal or 2. Free kicks, I was really surprised to see at the end of the game that we were up by 10. Like, a lot of them must have come from advantage. I really felt like they had a hard time catching us holding the ball in this game, and that's because we were able to get our handballs out. We are one of the better handballing teams in the comp. Hit outs, 57 to 36, but I felt like the post hit out was pretty even, and that's reflected in the clearances and the centre clearances. You can see that they're basically almost even, and that's around with the stoppage clearances as well. So that's all stuff that's coming off hit outs. So we might have had a bit more, but they were being read really well by the Carlton midfield. And look, Patrick Cripps had a great game, and why wouldn't you if you thought you weren't going to be playing that week? We beat them in contested possessions, and uncontested possessions was pretty even. Turnover game pretty even as well. Had a few more marks, especially inside 50 compared to them. We were much better at contested marks. Between Jake Melksham, Max Gawn, and Luke Jackson. Luke Jackson had a really good marking game. He's really improved. He couldn't mark to save his life in his first year overhead, and he's doing really, really well with that. Kicked 11-13 for the match, with Carlton having 10-14. We spent more time in front. Now, tackles inside forward 50, that is huge. We both average around 11, and both teams got more, 16 and 20. Our tackles, this shows how much of it was a heavy contested game. Our average is 55, and so is theirs. We had 74 tackles and they had 87. That's a lot. That is huge to go almost it's almost half on top of what we usually do. Stephen May had a big game, I felt. 736 metres gained. Sure, a lot of that is just him kicking up the left-hand Langdon wing. but he had plenty of intercepts. Harry Mackay did get on the end of a few of them, but no matter who was defending him, he was going to get on the end of them. Angus Brayshaw, 38 disposals, 24 kicks, 14 handballs, 4 tackles, 9 tackles for Clayton Oliver, 8 for Bailey Fritsch, so that's 8 tackles. Most of them would have been in the forward 50, which is great to see. Christian Salem's coming back into some really nice form. He had 6 tackles, 22 possessions. Alex Neil-Bullen got the 5 tackles and 13 disposals. He had a good defensive game. Harrison Petty, isn't he a superstar? Just fantastic unit in the back line. He's working so much better now that he's fit. Hit every target with his disposal. Stephen May, 92% with all those kick-ins and things as well. So yeah, disposal efficiency was pretty good for a very highly contested game. Stephen May with 10 intercepts, 4 of them being marks. Michael Hibbert and Jaden Hunt had 3 intercept marks as well. Max Gorn with 5 contested marks. Luke Jackson and Jake Melksham with 4 each. Jake taking all 4 of them in the inside 50. Score involvements, Jake Melksham had 10, Max Gorn had 8. Kysaiah Pickett was involved with 7. So even though for Jake Melksham, it says he only has 1 goal assist, but I could definitely consider him having 2, 1 to Cozzy and 1 to Langdon. Great goals that were very much needed. Going to go into the votes now, but unfortunately there is no coaches' votes. They hide rounds 22 and 23 until the announcement of the champion player on the 24th of August. So once they are released, I will update my YouTube caption below and include the votes in there. Gave 1 vote to Jaden Hunt for his huge involvement in the last quarter. His dash and run and dare to take on the game was definitely one of the differences in us winning. Gave 2 votes for Clayton Oliver for having another Clayton Oliver game, 29 disposals, 9 tackles. I gave 3 votes to Max Gorn, back to his best around the ground. His goal was at a great time as well when we needed it. Angus Brayshaw, 38 disposals, 12 clearances. He got leather poisoning from it. Gave him the 4 votes. I felt like he was very influential. Gave the 5 votes to Stephen May. I felt like he was huge in defence. Plenty of intercepting from him. He really corralled the back line. He got caught out on 1 or 2 occasions. Yep, sure, but you're allowed to have a few mistakes in this game when you're as good as he is. And I gave the 6 votes to the milkshake Jake Melksham for his 4 goals, 2 assists, and just doing everything he can to will this team across the line. If you get a chance, please go check out his interview on Channel 7. It is quite honest, and yeah, it's really important for this guy to get a flag, and I really hope that he can. Onto the leaderboard now, and things are very, very close at the end. Very, very close. So 1 more game to go, and I think I will also include finals and just go into our last game of the season, and then announce a winner. Onto the VFL, and the Casey Demons got a 16-point win over the Carlton Blues down at Casey Fields on the Sunday, 14th of August, the day after the game. It was very wet. It was very shitty conditions. It was just not a real fun environment to play footy in, but they got the job done and got it done pretty easily. It was pretty dour throughout the middle when it was pretty torrential raining. James Harms definitely best on ground with 34 disposals. I think I could see him coming back into the side. I think maybe Tom Sparrow might miss out. He's just probably not doing enough in that role to keep his spot, and James Harms is quite the handy tagger and would be very, very useful against Lachie Neale this week. Oscar Baker had another very solid game, 25 disposals. He will definitely be in the VFL team of the year. Their version of All-Australian. Sam Wiedemann had 23 disposals, but everyone will be saying, oh yes, but he's only got 0 goals. He was actually looking to hand off and get more players involved in this game. He played very, very well in really, really shitty conditions, taking 6 marks and trying to get other people involved. Bailey Laurie had a really, really tidy game. He was clean in the wet, was able to kick a goal as well. Adam Tomlinson, fantastic in the back line along with Matthew Buntine. They just did some really, really great work. Tajwa Woden had some nice things. Luke Dunstan had a very quiet game, which was a little bit unusual. Disco Turner did some nice things in defence as well. Didn't see too much of Jacob Van Rooyen. And Joel Smith played forward again. He's not setting the world on fire, but I think he has all the attributes to be a Tom McDonald clone. So I do like the idea of him playing forward, and I think that would be a good choice. The other Melbourne game from the weekend was the AFLW. I don't have access to the scores from that game at the moment because it was a practice match, but they got the job done quite easily against the Blues. Actually, out of all 3 games, it was probably the most impressive one. They kicked 6 goals in the first quarter and another 5 or 6 in the last to really just put them away. So the Dees girls look really, really good for this season. Really excited for them. There's some nice additions in there. Very, very sad that McNamara will not be able to play this year. But with Alyssa Bannon on the wing, I think we should still have enough run. So pretty excited for the AFLW season. So here's the ladder, and we are currently sitting in 3rd on percentage, with Sydney just above us. The best place we can finish is 2nd, and the worst place we can finish is 6th. It is a very, very weird place to be at this time of the year. It's not usual that you'd have 4 teams on 15 wins, but this year we do, and that's just where it's at. So all comes down to our game this week against Brisbane. I definitely think we have the wood over Brisbane. I think we match up really well on them, and the way that we play takes away all their strengths. They're not a very fast side, and when they play fast against us, we're better in the contest. And when they play slow, then that puts themselves into our trap of the way that we like to play defense and swoop in for intercept marks and zone off and do all those sort of things. So it's kind of like whichever way Brisbane want to play, we've got the antidote for that. We've got the counter attack. It's just unfortunate that the way that they play and the way that we play just counteracts perfectly. So we've beaten Brisbane the last 3 times that we've played them. We've got a bit of the wood over them at the moment. The last time they beat us was in 2020 by 3 points. And that was a game that we probably should have won. But Geelong, they've had a very, very easy run, and that makes me think that finals might be a little bit more difficult for them. They haven't played that many top 8 sides in the last few weeks, and they played West Coast this week, and they had Gold Coast the week before, who didn't really show up. They just kind of smashed them. They're on a great streak, but they've had a really easy run. A lot of games down at home, and it'll be interesting to see how they go in finals because they are the home and away side. Sydney just demolished Collingwood. St Kilda this week, it's the kind of game that St Kilda would win. When it doesn't matter, they're going to have some we have to win to make finals, so let's do our best to do that. And they probably will, and they're going to miss out. Western Bulldogs should get the job done over Hawthorn, so that's really interesting with this percentage with Carlton. It's about 5 or 6 points in it with that percentage, which we're all going to be familiar with from 2017 year, where it was in our hands to beat Collingwood and didn't. Richmond versus Essendon, and after all the news with Essendon this week, wouldn't you say that it's probably the kind of game that Essendon might turn up? Fremantle should probably get the job done against GWS. I don't really see GWS winning. And of course, it's, typical Melbourne players, the hardest game of the round to try and keep their spot. But to be completely honest, if I had to pick a team out of this top 8 to play this week, away from home, I'm picking Brisbane. So I think we'll get the job done. Other news during the week that was interesting was pretty much just Max King's kicking. If you watch the game between St Kilda and Brisbane, on the Friday, St Kilda would have got the job done if he had a kick straight, but he got in his own head and started swinging his hips and walking in slowly and hooking his leg and doing all this sort of stuff. And St Kilda should know how to fix that. They should know hey, this guy's not kicking right. Pull him off the ground and do some mindfulness work with him, help him out, get him out of his head, because when he gets in his head and he gets stressed out, that's when these old habits come back, because he's not thinking about his routine. He's thinking, oh shit, I better kick it. Oh no, I better kick it. Oh, and you can just read it all over his face. You can read that he's panicking. You can read that he doesn't want the responsibility because he's in his own head about it. And that's kind of similar to Sam Wiedemann, how he goes up with for marks. If he doesn't clunk a few marks early, it just all goes for him, and it's tough to watch. It's really sad, especially because Max King is a bloody fantastic player, and they should be doing better. St Kilda should be playing finals. Interesting stuff with Essendon imploding this week as well. I really don't see them getting Alistair Clarkson. I think they're bored. They're everything that's not on the footy field, even though what's on the footy field is trash at the moment, is also trash in the back end, and that's why things haven't worked at Essendon for a long time. When Josh Mahoney left to go to them, I was so rapt. As soon as he left and we got some different administrators in and put Alan Richardson in his job, we won a flag. So have a look at that. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the footy this week, on the game this week. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, it's been Yeahthedees.
Petrarca! Oh wow! How good is that? Sparrow to make it a 3-goal, 3-quarter dive. He's got it! Surely not another one. Handball to Oliver. Streaming through. Bang! Bang, bang, bang! Melbourne are the premiers for 2021!
And it's just so special for such our club, mate, our club.
Lastly, after 57 years of pain, it's coming home.